This is a Play Your Way network presentation. Get the full story at PlayLifeYourWay.com. In a world where comics, movies, games, rumors, and Kardashians come at you 24/7, three champions will rise to defend you from wasting precious time, money, and emojis. BK, Nate, and Derek will show you how to do it the player way.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, it's on once again, Patron once again. Yeah, that's right. This is your resident podcast DJ, BK, helping you curate your media
the player way.
That's right. Got a really excited audience tonight, man. So how you doing there, my co-captain Nate?
That's me. I wish I had as good of an intro as you do, but I'm not that clever.
It's perfect. Speaking of intros, did you see the new promo that went out about getting another co-captains?
Mm-mm.
Oh man.
Yeah. Wait, with the where it starts off with me laying down?
Yeah, man. How do you like the description of your persona on the podcast, man?
I think that's very fair.
It is. I think it's very fair. And ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, if you don't already know, you can go on Instagram at Playerway Podcast, or you can go on to at Play Your Way Network on Instagram. You can look at those at that promo. It's in there. It's the promo called Get to Know the Co-Captains, and it starts off with Nate, and he's like looking cool as shit. And his description, it says, like, the always laid-back, cool guy of the podcast. So he's like, yes, I believe that is fair. Definitely want to give it up for Nate, man. Doing chillaxing.
The player way.
Absolutely. So, yeah, man. So, it's actually cool, man. Unfortunately, it seems like we can't quite get it together and get all of the co-captains together. We had... me out last week. You can kind of still hear it in my voice a little bit. I had a sinus infection. I thought it might have been the flu, but it was just like a sinus infection that turned into, it's like a viral thing that turns into bronchitis. And so I was trying to get ahead of it before it turned into walking pneumonia, because I tend to be that way. But there's some inclement weather that's got our co-captain corrupting the system himself, the urban cowboy, wild card, Derek. He's not here. We miss you, buddy. But we are going to make sure that we kill it in your absence. But we send you, our prayers are with you. You know, our thoughts are with you. We'll change our Facebook profile picture in your memory, and we'll do it
to like the state of Texas.
Way.
Exactly.
Hovering over the state flag of Texas. Yeah.
We are all Texans today. So, all right. So, anyway, man, it's been a kind of a crazy weekend. You guys talked a lot about football last week, and I actually really appreciated that y'all talked about that, because, this, with all of the bullshit that's been going on with the NFL, with, people kneeling and standing up, and, college football almost kind of getting a little bit more of a shine from the president himself even. It's been kind of weird. And so it was cool to hear you guys talking about all the exciting stuff, because this postseason has been really unpredictable, I'd say. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a year where the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be playing in the AFC Championship.
And the
and
Minnesota
if you would have told
Vikings.
me that at the beginning of the year... Yeah, Minnesota Vikings with Case Keenum at quarterback. I mean, me and Derek and I sang his praises last week, and God damn it, he deserves it again this week.
Jesus Christ, dude. There's a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Him and Stephon Diggs. No, I mean, I watched that game, and I had considered it over after the Saints had scored that last time, I think Minnesota had about 30 seconds left. I considered it over. I had a bet with one of my friends. I thought I was going to win $50. And, I mean, who would have ever thought last second touchdown?
They hit him with the got him!
All they had to do was tackle the guy, too. I mean,
That's it. So, D, they thought,
unbelievable.
they thought they won, bro. Like, when you watch that clip over, I watched that clip, like, at least 10 times over and over again. Like, it's very obvious that they were they were done for the game. Like, they had no idea that guy was just going to break out there like that. They weren't really covering him. It was crazy. It was like, y'all know y'all can still lose this game, right? It can, man, like, so, man.
That's a testament to, certainly playing to the last second, like, never giving up. That's
absolutely
having that attitude.
With a lot. That is a lesson for every place. But going back to what I was saying, it's cool to be getting some football talk. We didn't really talk a whole lot about football this season, although we did kind of take a bit of a break in October, so that probably cut into that. I do think, however, with all of the political bullshit that's been going on, it kind of took away the luster of, in my opinion, America's greatest game.
Mm-hmm. I think so, maybe to a little bit. What took it away more for this season for me was Aaron Rodgers getting hurt.
Yeah,
so.
That too.
that took me out of it. But yes, I think it did. It put the NFL sort of in this, I don't know, unknown light. For the first time in ever, people cared about these players' political opinions. And I don't know. It's interesting. And again, Derek and I talked about it a little bit. We never watch football for the political commentary.
I appreciated that y'all said that, because it's the same thing. Like, those things you usually kind of leave for the, beast mode. Marshawn Lynch, he kind of talked about that too, where it's weird to have like the dichotomy of Marshawn Lynch versus other players, because Marshawn Lynch very much is the dude who's like, why are we giving y'all interviews? Like, who cares what we have to say? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just here so I don't get fined. Like, just let me play the game and let me go on about my way. Like, who cares what I have to say? You don't really care what I have to say. It's just everybody. There's all of these jobs that are dependent, like analysts and people sell newspapers and get blogs going and all these different shows and networks. It's like there's all of these corporate jobs that are built around moving chess pieces around. So in that aspect, a lot of people care about Kaepernick because it gives them something to talk about. It gives them something to do. And guys like Marshawn Lynch, they kind of put it in perspective, and they speak for the rest of us guys who we just want to get a beer, bag of chips, and watch the damn game.
Mm-hmm. And if you honestly are going to get offended by whether or not a player kneels or stands for the anthem, then fucking don't watch the game. Or watch everything after the national anthem. Like, don't get heated about it. Life's too short. Man.
I agree, dude. It's so funny. Like, it makes you wonder, what did people do before Colin Kaepernick? Like, I guarantee there were probably games where the national anthem wasn't even sung. And now all of a sudden, every game we got to have like a recording artist come out, sing it, security and everything, just to make sure people. It's just the weirdest thing. It's odd, but I'm really ready for this season to be over. I am excited for this Super Bowl because it's like it's almost guaranteed to be an underdog story somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It could very well end up being Jacksonville versus Minnesota, which I'm all for. I don't care to see.
Hope so.
Yeah, I don't care. I would love for the Jags to beat the Patriots. Nothing against them, nothing against the fans.
It's not happening, but it's not happening.
Well, dude, I never thought they would beat the Steelers. I thought it was a shoo-in. I was thinking Pittsburgh Patriots for the AFC Championship. Yeah. So who knows, honestly. And Minnesota, as much as I don't want to root for them, they might as well go to the Super Bowl at this point.
Like, you know what this reminds me of? Like, the way this is all going, it reminds me of how, like, in the 90s there used to be these movies like Angels in the Outfield or like Major League. And like what would happen is, like, the end of the film wouldn't, because they couldn't alter like real life and mess with the PR that is like like if you use real teams, okay, in a movie, you can't like have like a Super Bowl in the movie without making up fake teams. So, for example, Any Given Sunday, they used a lot of fake teams so that they could actually go to Super Bowl and then talk about the dynamic. Whereas like Angels in the Outfield and stuff like that, they used real team logos and stuff, so they couldn't go all the way to Super Bowl. So what would happen is those movies, you know, or even like they couldn't even go for the pennant, you know. So what would happen is at the end of the film, it would always end up like at a division championship, and you wouldn't know if they actually won like the Super Bowl or, you know, or the Grand Series or whatever, or World Series or whatever it is. So,
yeah.
like I feel like they used up their like angel dust. Like
the accomplishment was just to get to that point, not go all the way. But that story is amazing. What happens after this, not so good.
because the Patriots play until the end of the game. Like that is evident from how they destroyed Atlanta last season. They are a fourth quarter team. It's not going down like that. So it's like in many ways it kind of gives merit to like basketball and baseball because they have series so that you don't get like a fluke team in the championship, because that's what's going to happen. Like it doesn't matter who goes up against the Patriots, in my opinion. I don't know. After how they spanked my team last year, I mean, and let's not even talk about Atlanta. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. I mean, I really thought we were gonna make it, man. It's just two Georgia teams in the same week just spanked, man. We lost in the college championship. Man, it's just, man, it's crazy. But anyway, excited about football. Who do you think? Like honestly, who do you think is gonna end up being? If you had to guess.
At this point, I would say Minnesota and New England, but I was way off of my predictions last week, so I wouldn't take anything I say to heart.
You don't want to put it all online for a gentleman's bet?
I already lost $50 from the Saints game. And
I got no money left.
Yeah.
What they make you give. Well, let's move along. Speaking of saints and sinners and all of that stuff, Rachel and I ended up moving over to film. Rachel and I actually watched Insidious: The Last Key this weekend. If you're keeping track of the numbers, which a lot of people are not, this is Insidious 4. It's the fourth installment in that series. What's crazy about this film is like because it's so similar to like the Conjuring series and Annabelle, you kind of forget. You kind of think sometimes that Annabelle is connected to this series, and then you have to remind yourself they're different universes, like they're not the same universe because they're so similar. But if are you a fan of Insidious, like the first one when it came out?
The first two. So, you know, I don't know why they don't set it in the same universe. They might as well, since it's the same director that created.
It is.
You know, I believe the same writer as well.
Yeah.
And that writer, I think, directed this Insidious, didn't he?
Oren Peli.
Like Lee Wine. Oh, never mind.
Oren Peli, I think, did this one. Yeah, well, it's directed by Adam Robitel, produced by Jason Blum, James Wan, and Oren Peli. So, I mean, between Oren Peli and James Wan, you knew this was going to be a good film. Like, they put a lot of money into this. And the reason why I want to talk about Insidious: The Last Key, I'm not talking about it because it's like a blockbuster. It was not even a movie I was checking for. I thought the graphics to promote it, the posters were terrible. Like this key monster, I thought it was the stupidest looking thing, dude. I was like, what kind of anime bullshit is this? Like a key monster.
What?
Like,
I haven't seen the third one. What happens in the third one? Because the
that
second one, they get Patrick Wilson back.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a second, because that's the point of what I want to talk about in this film. Is Insidious is a cautionary tale about, we talk about DC making having issues, and other companies trying to make, like The Mummy, making these universe films and stuff like that, and kind of not knowing where they're going. It's kind of crazy because it used to be that a film was just made to be a film standalone, like Office Space. If they come out with an Office Space sequel, I'm going to be so upset. Like, there's something to be said for making a great film and putting it all on the line and really giving it all so that you can really go to the limit and have a great film. And that's what happened with Insidious. What was really cool about Insidious is you think that there's this one monster, this one demon that we're looking for the whole, film, and it turns out there's this other demon that we should have been paying attention to. That's excuse me. That's the real big bad of the film. Which, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, it ends up being the lady in the black wedding dress. That ends up being the real bad, but you're not paying attention to her at all through the film until the very end. They mention her from time to time, but she just shows up and basically kills the Ghostbuster at the end of the film. And so what happened there is they decided, because the film did so well, they decided, Blumhouse decided that, because it's produced by Blumhouse Films, they decided to go ahead and put out a sequel. The problem is the most compelling character they killed off in the first film, the Ghostbuster. How do you bust the ghost when the bitch is dead? It's like, what do we do now? So what they had to do is they had to start doing prequels. So Insidious: The Last Key is a prequel before the first Insidious movie, because the most important character in the film franchise is this old bitch. And the same thing with Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is a prequel as well, because what else could they do? Because they were like, oh shit, the best person we have is dead. We gotta fuck. In fact, they brought her back as like a ghost.
In the second one, wasn't she?
Because, yeah. That's why they had to kill off like more Ghostbusters so people could go to sleep. So the second one to me was fucking terrible, because it was real obvious what was going on. They had to kill like all the motherfuckers off so that they could get to the really good actress of the whole thing. And so all of these films really surround this character. What's her name? Let me find her name. Her name is Elise. And so, to me, in my opinion, Insidious: The Last Key is actually the best one out of all of them, which is kind of surprising. Yeah, it really is. What ends up happening in this one, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it goes back to how she got her gift and being able to see ghosts and stuff. And this one is like, of all of the Insidious films, this one's the most like The Conjuring. There's some real good moments in there where you're kind of like, okay, I'm seeing what's going on. Like, like if it was not for Rachel, I would not have seen this film. But like, it was kind of cool, man. And they do a good job of like all of the characters, because people have aged. They do a good job with makeup and stuff for like the Ghostbuster guys, explaining why they're dressed like. In the first film, Insidious, people made fun of them because they were dressed like Jehovah's Witnesses. And so, like, they were like, why are they dressed like that? Why are they dressed like Bible sales people, But, like, they kind of explain in this one why it is. It's because she has these old school, like, ideas of how that people should look. And they're really kind of grungy looking before then. And you kind of saw a little bit of that in Insidious 3. Insidious 3, I actually did not see. And what was crazy is when you watch it, you actually think it's Annabelle 2, I believe. Annabelle 2, I think, is the one. Did you ever see that one?
Mm-hmm. The prequel to Annabelle?
Yeah.
The prequel of a prequel?
Well, yeah, I know, right? Is Annabelle 2, is that the one that takes place in, like, the apartment building with the old black lady?
I believe that's Annabelle 1. Annabelle 2 is where they're out in that, like, farmhouse.
Okay, so Annabelle 1 is the one when they're... Okay, so Annabelle 1 is with the young girl in the apartment, and it's like the black lady helps exorcise the demons, right?
Yeah.
Insidious 3 is almost exactly the same film.
Really?
That's why I thought I saw it. Like, there's this old black lady in this apartment building with this young girl helping her. It's the weirdest thing, but in this case, the black lady gets killed off. So it's weird. It's like the third one is like worth watching. Once you see this one, you'll want to go back and watch them. But I think they did a good job. They definitely, with this one, they actually did a good job of opening up the door, no pun intended, if you actually see the film, into seeing what could be as far as a universe. The key monster demon dude is essentially, they explain where the keys come from. And it's actually pretty good. It's pretty compelling. as far as horror movies are concerned. It definitely Stephen King's It definitely raised the bar, and you can tell that they went to town on this one. So if you go and see this film, you're definitely doing horror movies.
The Player Way.
It's definitely worth the watch, especially if you're a guy like me who has Movie Pass. Do you have Movie Pass yet?
No, I don't.
Yes, bro, you got to do it, man. It's so cheap, and you watch enough films to pay for it.
Yeah, I do. Part of me is, I definitely don't watch a movie at the theater a month. But it is a good deal, and I should absolutely do it.
It's extremely good. And what's cool is you actually start watching stuff more often, because you're like, oh, I need to watch something for the podcast. Oh, I guess I can just go do this. It won't cost me any money. Like, you don't feel like you're losing out. And it's also cool it feels fun to, like, screw a company. Like, the guy who made MoviePass even admitted that, like, the business model doesn't make any sense. But the whole point is he's hoping he'll get enough subscribers and enough lazy people to where people will just let it keep pulling from their account. And it's plausible, because the one thing about MoviePass that a lot of people don't know about is that, and this is a little bit of an exclusive.
The Player Way.
Exclusive.
So what's going on with MoviePass is you actually are contracted. It's not one of those things where you can sign up and then like a month later decide you don't want to do it. Like, watch 10 movies in a month during the summertime where there's like a lot of stuff, and then get out of it. Like, it's like a 2-year contract. So like when you join in there, at least it was when I joined. So it's either a 1 year or 2 year, but I know it's like one of those things where Rachel asked me, like, could I unsubscribe? And I was like, no. I looked into it after I impulse bought it, and it was like, okay, so I'm not getting out of this. So, but it's cool. It's not a lot of money at all. It's only like $9 a month, and it's a good way to save money.
The Player Way.
I used to love going to the movies. Especially as a teenager, high school, even my early 20s, like, that was the thing to do. And I used to watch so many movies at the theater. But now it's so convenient to just wait. I know I only have to wait 2 or 3 months before it comes out, and I can rent it on iTunes or rent it on Amazon. Right. It's the theater business in a whole has to be suffering somewhat.
Dude, and that, to me, and I think that's a good point. And what's gonna even, I think I talked about this on a previous podcast, but I've been talking about it with Rachel for sure. Shout out to Rachel. I'm wearing her name out on this episode. But basically, what's going on with that is, I believe what's going to ultimately kill the theater industry is going to end up being studios, because I think studios are going to find a way, and I think Disney might be the one to do it. I don't know, maybe not. But there's going to be some studio that's going to figure out a way to sell instant downloads alongside movie
theatrical releases. Yeah,
because
and even if it was at a heightened price, say you have to pay $30 to rent it for 12 hours.
Yep. That's
just
what it's gonna end up being.
Yeah, and if it was something like, even if it was, I don't know, Ant-Man 3, I would do it.
What it's going to end up being, it's going to end up being, and this is my prediction, this is my conspiracy.
Conspiracy. But what if? It's a conspiracy.
My conspiracy theory for this episode. I think what's going to end up happening is they're going to find a way to take that, and it's probably going, I think Amazon might start it. iTunes might do it too, but I see more so with Amazon Prime. They'll probably start it off with like some of their films, their exclusive films, and then what they'll do is they'll make it to where you rent the film and you literally have the running time to watch it, plus maybe 30 minutes for pausing and stuff. So it'll prevent people from being able to like rent it and then like invite a shit ton of people over. And I think they're going to probably do it. Oh, and they're going to do it like this. This is what they're going to do. They're going to do it similar to, I got a really good idea that's going to kill it. There's this thing on Crunchyroll called simulcasts. And what they do is, like, if you're really, like, hyper into anime, you can watch, kind of like watching, like, a TV show. They'll tell you what time it's coming on. Like pay-per-view even, like UFC. It's going to end up being something like that, like on demand. and you can watch it, but it's only on for the period of time that it's on. So like you either are all like showtimes at a movie. You're gonna have to sit in your lobby, be in there. You'll have to type in like something on your cell phone when it gets to start, and then it'll go. And it'll be an exorbitant price, and it's gonna start off with some really huge film.
Yeah.
But what theaters are gonna have to do is they're gonna have to figure out a way. They're going to have to figure out a way to, and they're doing a good job in my opinion. I mean, they just got to continue to give an experience that is just superior to being at home.
But even then, I think it would only. I mean, summertime would be, your summer blockbusters would be the only real reason to have some sort of theatrical experience, or Christmas time if Star Wars is coming.
Yeah, in Christmas. Yeah.
I don't need to go watch something like The Founder at the theater, nor would I probably ever. What I think Korea has these things. They're called. You know how they have karaoke rooms. So they have rooms where you can watch DVDs. Now, they were called DVD bongs, and they were also used to perform, you're in high school, you take a girl out to a date. It was the Netflix and chill of how I grew up. But I always thought that would be a good idea, some to implement here, like smaller theatrical rooms that you can rent out for a party of your own. Because there are a lot of times I go to the theater, there's people chatting. You're just, oh gosh, like this is why I don't come to the theater. But if I could rent a room out, have seven of my friends come with me and watch the next Avengers, I would pay, a pretty high price for something like that. It'd be like getting a table at a club,
Bro, I think y'all, ladies and gentlemen, you got another exclusive on this episode.
Exclusive. The Player Way.
Exclusive.
I think Co-Captain Nate just came up with a better theory than I had. I went up to like the year 2030. I think he has come up to what's going to happen in the year 2020. So what's going to happen, I think you're right. I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a theater open up, and they're going to only have like one VIP room. And it's going to be real small. You could even take the projector room, if you took the projector room and like cleaned it up, because a lot of these projector rooms look like shit. But if you took those, and you had this exclusive where you could sit near the projector and have this VIP experience with just your friends and you could talk, you'd pay probably an extra $10 per ticket.
Yeah. Even if it's just a 2-seater room, you have, 55-inch TVs are not uncommon at all these days. So you could easily have something like that and, big enough for 2 to 4 people. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's something like, I don't know why people don't do that here in this country, because that's something I grew up with, but I'm sure there's a lot of legal minutia as to why you can't.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure for sure. It's got to do with the companies that it's going to take some smaller company that has a shit ton of money behind it, that's not afraid to take risks, and it's gonna go that direction. I think you're right, dude. I think that's
what Netflix should do. Hey, Netflix is opening up this physical public space. There's 100 rooms in there. You could rent a room, choose something to watch from Netflix's library. Dude, the only problem is a lot of people are going to use it for sex.
Hey, dude, that's how you do it, man.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is, I think you're right. They just need to make a deal with like Universal Studios, dude. And Universal Studios needs help right now, because that whole thing with the Mummy, I mean, that just didn't take off. You know what I'm saying?
Universal still got their Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, it's true, but
so they'll keep churning those out.
They'll try, but that Vin Diesel does bust. That Vin Diesel bubble does burst every like 6 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. So, and I think
it's
he's really
more
close.
Like the Rock's bubble, I think, at this point. I mean,
now I think Rock is gonna. I think the Rock is. I mean, he's gonna. I don't think his bubble's gonna burst at all. I think he's got.
Well, I think he's what caused the franchise to reach that new height that it is today.
Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly. But
ever since Fast 5,
you're saying the Rock? Okay, so you're saying the Rock is gonna bust that bubble by leaving the mainstay.
Well, they've already delayed the next Fast and the Furious in favor of The Rock and Jason Statham spinoff. So obviously,
so you're not saying The Rock's bubble is bursting. You're saying Vin Diesel is going to burst that bubble, and he already has. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't think Vin Diesel's the reason anybody, not the main reason people go watch Fast and the Furious.
I'll give you that for sure, because I mean, that Will Smith spot is definitely been taken out by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Like, seriously, like. His first name is D, and his last name is Johnson. He's got penis for the first and last name. I'm telling you, females. My wife is looking at the D every time he comes on, dude. Shit, fucking Jumanji. Did you see that? Have you seen Jumanji, dude?
No, not yet, but I do want to.
Bro,
again, like
it's good.
I don't know if I need to see it in theaters, you know. But I understand it to be very good, and it's making quite a bit of money. So
I would say it's worth seeing in theaters because it's a great movie going experience. It's one of those films that you're like, okay, this is why going to the movies is like an outing. It's worth seeing. It's one of those things where you can watch it at home later, but it won't be like watching it with a crowd is really fun. Like hearing people's reactions to it and the jokes. There's something about watching a comedic film. I always go back to Team America. Like, watching that film, I don't really have a reason to go back and watch Team America, but seeing it in the theater is what made that film for me, because hearing everybody reacting to, like,
it's infectious, the laughter and all that.
It is. Yeah. So, I would encourage you for sure, before it gets out of theaters, definitely go out and see that, bro. It's a surprisingly entertaining film. I was really impressed by it. And definitely, like, the one person I didn't expect to enjoy was Jack Black. Jack Black, I mean, definitely he brought something special to that film.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, man. Like, because he's playing a girl in that, and he goes all the way with it, dude. Like, he is he. There's never a time. You know how they have like some films where a person is supposed to be a certain way, and like for the first like third of the film they do it, and then they come up with some sort of plot device so that person doesn't have to act that way anymore. Mm-hmm. I expected that to happen with Jack Black, to where like the girl learns how to be a guy and she just acts like a guy for the rest of the film and toughens up. But no, like, he's hardcore. Like, there's like even some moments where her character has kind of like a love interest, and there's these moments like, are they gonna have Jack Black kiss a dude? Like one of the Jonas Brothers? Are they about to do this? So it's like, it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting film. Jack Black is definitely, he's one of those guys where you're like wondering why he was so popular and why he every now and again has a hit. But he does a really good job in this, man. And to me, I feel like he was the X factor in making the film the next level.
I've always enjoyed Jack Black and his movies. He doesn't make them as often as he used to, but
no,
his time to shine was like that specials. Early 2000 was
after he came out with Orange County and stuff, and when
Shallow House, School of Rock,
exactly, when he could actually play like more stand up, like straight guy, like he didn't have to always be like the comedic person, like he didn't have to be this, hey, I'm a fat guy. Like, he actually played some characters where he played more of like a asshole type of character in a couple cases, and actually played like good guys in some cases, like Shallow Hal, for example, like you just mentioned. But he's actually been doing some really good Netflix stuff. Like, he had this one movie on Netflix a while back about this guy who works like in a funeral home or some shit like that. That was really good. And then
Bernie?
Bernie. Yeah, that was a really good one. And then he came out with another one. Netflix gave him another one it's a film called The Polka King. And it's a true story about this guy who came over, he was an immigrant, and made a career off of like singing polka with like old people, and then making like this side business where they liked him so much because he was always at these festivals singing, and he opened up like this polka store that nobody shopped at, but because it was like a brick and mortar store, it was evidence that he was a businessman. Like, and they do a good job of showing how like the man never made any money out of this store with all these trinkets. It was like this gift shop that like somebody's wife would open up just so she had something to do. and her husband just pumped money into it, but like nobody ever shot there. Except that's what he did. And then what he did is people met there and they were like, he would make these like ideas like, hey, I'm going to go see the Pope. And he was completely lying and saying, hey, let's get a bunch of old people to invest in this company. And if they invest a certain amount of money, the VIPs will get to see the Pope. And then he takes them over there to Vatican City. And then he's like with his guys, okay, so I don't know the Pope and I don't know how we're going to make this happen, but we are going to meet the Pope. And like they're like, what the fuck do you mean you don't know the Pope? You just sold like these $1 million trips to come over here, and we're literally 1 hour until we meet the Pope, and we're not even in the Vatican City. How are we going to even get in the city? And like him just like showing how in real life, this man met the Pope, got the Pope to have an audience with him, like cheated people out of millions of dollars, got his wife to become Miss Pennsylvania. I mean, it is crazy, dude. It is a crazy film, and I just love films like that. I know that's one of your things too. You love to watch films that are like about things that actually happening and seeing how this happened and how this person came out the other side of it.
Yeah. Wow, I'm gonna have to check it out. I've never heard about it until now. So
yeah, it just came out. I think Saturday or Sunday on Netflix. It should be on your front page when you go there. Speaking of on the front page, going down the Netflix trend as well, David Letterman is back. I don't know if you know about that, but he's got this show. His new show is called "And My Next Guest Needs No Introduction," and his first guest is Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of cool to watch. It gets kind of boring because it's like two old guys talking, but he's gonna have Jay-Z and some other like big name artists on there this season. So if you are looking for something to binge watch, you are definitely doing it.
He looks weird with a beard.
He does. He looks like Santa Claus, dude. He looks like he really could play a Santa Claus type character.
And I was never a big I never watched Letterman too much. I was more of a Jay Leno.
Well, and let's be honest, everybody. That's the truth for everybody. Whoever's on CBS is always going to get the better ratings because that CBS has always been the old person's channel. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. Like even right now, supposedly, I heard this the other day. Supposedly, the Late Show with Stephen Colbert is the #1 night show, and I'm like, how? His show is boring compared to Kimmel. Kimmel, I feel like, is like the best show right now because he's into the political. He's got his fingers on the pulse on that. He's doing some stuff. I see Jimmy Kimmel like ended up being like running for a public office. To be honest with you,
I could see it if they go by sort of views, because I gotta imagine, especially in this day and age, nobody really watches a talk show on TV. We all watch the clips on YouTube.
That's exactly what I was getting at.
Carpool karaoke is very popular.
Yes.
Which even spinned off to its own series on Apple, of all places.
Well, that's what's weird. That's actually weird too. How like a segment. I feel like that's what happens these days. Is like these little segments that happen on like Ellen and on Jimmy Kimmel.
Fallon had the lip sync battle.
Yep, and then it became like its own show. Which, to me, I feel like there's a certain audience of that I'm not a part of. You will never hear us recommend one of those types of shows on our...
The player
way.
Exactly.
It's not the player way to watch. It's like there's a certain yuppie audience that's old that they want to be like current. It's the same audience that keeps SNL alive. Like, you know, it's like... I don't know. Like, Jimmy Kimmel is the voice of our generation. Jimmy Fallon, I feel, is like trendy. And he's like, and hey, I got black guys in my band, you know, like he's riding the coattails off of like, Jimmy Fallon's really good at finding things that are cool and getting onto them before they extinguish being trending on Twitter.
I guess so. I don't have an opinion on Fallon too much, to be honest.
You get my point. Whereas with Kimmel, like I feel like with his son, like not that he's using his son and his like health issues to his advantage, but like people like to hear that, when he gets emotional about what the Trump White House is doing with healthcare and the implications of it, and the fact that this past week our president Donald Trump got his first checkup, and Kimmel made a point to say he got to do something that thousands, hundreds of thousands of kids won't be able to do this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, damn, dude, and he does things like he'll go off for a week to go lobby like something that's to the advantage of children's health care and things like that, and then he'll have like Jennifer Lawrence come on and host the show in his stead. Like, that's like a movement,
oh yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Like, that's a movement. I feel like I really feel like Kimmel. I feel like that's what's gonna make him kind of stand out, and he's doing it from ABC, which is a station that classically just didn't have that kind of pedigree. So it's really interesting. And then, of course, you got James Corden, too, who's doing his thing. I think James Corden, to me, out of the four of them, is the funniest.
The four being Kimmel, Corden. Well, I think you got to put Conan in that. I honestly think Conan's the funniest. I think he's the wittiest. Because I watch his clips on YouTube. I subscribe to his channel. I don't watch his interviews, but I watch his sort of segments, and he's hilarious.
Have you seen his Conan Plays Video Games segment?
Oh, Clueless Gamer? Love every single
Clueless Gamer is so fucking funny, dude. I think that's the funniest thing ever. You could have a whole show with Clueless Gamer, dude. Like, that's a podcast waiting to happen, dude. Like, I think that. Yeah.
He's hilarious, man. He's very witty, and I really appreciate that. But I also do enjoy Kimmel. Yeah.
So let's talk about five. So what we're saying is the top five, which is interesting because James Corden really isn't one of the top four. James Corden is part of the Late Show crew.
Yeah, like the Late.
Yeah, exactly, the Late Show. Which moment of silence for what's his face? He used to be on CBS. I'm doing a moment of silence for him, but I can't.
Carson Daly.
Remember. No, not Carson Daly. He used to be on CBS. The Irish British guy.
Oh, Craig Ferguson.
Craig fucking Ferguson, dude. Craig Ferguson, dude. I'm telling you, like that. Craig Ferguson is. If you ever watch his clips, dude, he's incredibly like. Well, I'm gonna say this: Craig Ferguson is in today's climate when it comes to flirting with women, he would get his ass chewed.
Oh yeah,
like,
he would get hashtag me too.
He would be off immediately because that's basically women come on his show and flirt with him, and he flirts back, and it's fun to go and watch those old clips. But shout out to him, dude. That dude was definitely doing late night, the player way, man.
The player way.
Indeed. Man, what else you been up to this week, man? We kind of blazed through. Without Derek here, we're kind of moving quick. Y'all did the same thing on y'all's podcast too, though. Well, no, y'all went like a full hour.
Yeah. I don't know if this really has anything to do with anybody else, but I took my first trip of 2018. Every year I like to do a winter vacation because it's cheap.
Holy shit,
you
dude.
fly to somewhere cold, it's cheap as shit.
Hey, let's talk about it. Rachel and I did the same thing last week.
I flew to Boston. Go Sox.
We talk about, are you a townie? You a Southie? You a Southie?
Yeah.
Exactly. Tell me what that was like.
It was cool. I've been there once when I was in middle school, so this is honestly sort of like my first time. Again, it's like we've tried to fly so I went with my girlfriend. We tried to fly somewhere cold. It's cheap. It was either Vancouver or Boston. And we settled on Boston because we figured it'd be sort of easier to get around. If you're in Vancouver, we're not on cell network and stuff. And we took Uber a lot. So it's like it worked out. And I really enjoy historical things. So it was cool to walk around in the historical North End. Went to stuff like Paul Revere's house. Which I kept thinking, like, everybody knows the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. And I just imagine, like, this guy shuffling around on his horse at night, someone is out there when he's, like, yelling, the British are calling, oh, go fuck yourself, Paul.
Yes. Those are the parts of the story that get left out.
Yeah, this
Like, the
guy's
guys who
always
not-
fucking yelling.
Bro, okay, all right, check this out. All right, I love that point. Let's go with that. Because there's always, like, some guy when, like, the smoke alarm goes off, like, at work. There's always some asshole who ignores all of the training, all of the active shooter shit, and he's just doing his thing, still working and not paying attention. And you go by their cubicle and you're like, hey, Paul, I think we got to get going. I think the British might be coming. And they're like, no, this is just a drill, dude. They do this shit all the time. That guy's always, like, going up and down here. You know, he's a stickler when it comes to fucking safety. Fuck him. You know, I got to get these TPS reports done. You know, it's like, you know, there was, like, a bunch of people, like Chris Tucker did in Rush Hour, where he's like, everybody stay calm. There's a bomb. Don't panic. But we do need you to get out the building. And, like, everybody just kind of stands there and, like, what is he talking
Looks
about?
at him.
It's like, bitch, didn't you fucking hear me? It's a goddamn bomb. Everybody panic, run. You know, it's like Paul Revere had to fucking grab, like, the pots and pans and say, y'all, you know, there had to be, like, a warning that came early that was, like, quiet, and it was like, hey guys, so I was over at my house and I saw, like, I was looking over in the horizon and I think I saw, like, the British ships and stuff, and people were like, oh no, that couldn't be. It would take decades and they're not really Bitch, the British is coming, goddamn. Don't you understand? This is not a drill. Hurry up. You know, it's like, yeah. So, you know, I love that you zeroed in on that, because, you know, it had to be some shit like that. Little, like,
He had to piss off some people, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's loud. People are trying to sleep.
Oh, it's just like the same thing, like, in Philly. It's like the same thing in Philly. Like, when you go to Philly, there's a certain part of Philadelphia that is, like, still somewhat historical to where Ben Franklin, like, lived, and where his barn was. And, you know, like, that part of town, the reason why it's separated even to this day is because a lot of motherfuckers were like, fuck him. He thinks he's just tough shit, you know. He thinks he's the bee's knees. Like, nobody's going to be talking about this guy in 100 years. Fuck him. I'm going to use this candle wax over here. Fuck a light bulb. You know, it's like,
So he's out there with his fucking kite. You know, fuck him and his bifocals.
Exactly, like, you know, like somebody was using like an old soothsayer, like, cure for something that he was like, fuck him and this goddamn electricity. Only 2 houses have it. I'm gonna stick here with this Pony Express over here. We'll be just fine. We'll get everything done by nighttime. Who needs lights after dark? Who's working in the middle of the fucking night? You should be goddamn sleep. You know, like, that's where it went. That's where it went, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Kids these days have it too easy. They got fucking electricity.
Who needs fucking lights? And then, like, the kids are like, can we have, like, kids are like, electricity's like the internet, like Facebook now. Dad, can we have electricity? Who wants fucking electricity?
Yeah.
We're moving
You can
out.
turn on the light for an hour after you finish your homework.
Exactly. Look, who needs a switch? Blow it out. It's gone. Lights is off. You know, it's like, gas works just fine. And then, you know, like, the gas salesman was, like, forever, like, speaking against electricity. Gaslight will always be it, guys. This is a good investment, I promise. Gas lamps are going nowhere. I think you should put all of your investment, your retirement money into this. This is the future. And you know, there had to be, like, some company that was, like, competing against electricity with, like, gas lights and pipes and shit like that.
I want to say there's some movie coming out about, like, Thomas Edison and some other guy, like a race to mass produce electricity, almost.
Well, is it about Tesla? Him and Tesla?
Maybe.
Because I know that's a really... Dude, Tesla versus Edison. You know, it's funny. When we were kids, we were part of that generation where, like, Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Edison and all those motherfuckers were, like, George Washington Carver. They were, like, the best thing since sliced bread, literally. And same thing with George, and Ben Franklin. But what's crazy is how, like, when you watch, like, The Men Who Made America. Have you ever seen that series? Never seen The Men Who Made America?
No.
Oh, dude. Oh, shit. Nate, that is your... Dude, this week, History Channel came out with this series called The Men Who Built America. And it's about, like, the Rockefellers, like all of those motherfuckers, whatever his name, JP Morgan, like, all of the people who built America. and the shady shit they did to like get on top. It's like they were gangsters, dude. And there's like a whole episode dedicated to Tesla versus Alexander Graham Bell, and how Tesla's form of electricity was actually more efficient and safer for people to use, but they intentionally the Edison company physically sabotaged like their experiments to prove that it was bad to use and like not as humane to use. But in actuality, they knew it was a lie and put all of this money to like destroying Tesla. That's the reason why Tesla's name to this day is worth so much, because we would probably be in the fucking future if not for goddamn Thomas Edison and his greedy like hands, dude. It's crazy. The Men Who Built America, bro, you gotta go and watch that series, man.
Yeah, I'll try to find it. The movie I was talking about is called The Current War. It came out actually last year. It's the dramatic story of a cutthroat race between electricity titans Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse to determine whose electrical system would power the modern. Actually, dude, it stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Michael Shannon, Tom
I'm
Holland.
gonna watch that too. Watch The Men Who Built America first, and then watch this one, because it's gonna be hard.
Where did you watch that on?
Like it should be on. It should be on like Netflix or some shit. Let me look it up right now. The Men Who Built America. It is so good, dude.
History Channel.
And the way you think and everything, it's like the first thing that comes up in Google. Let me look at it. The Men Who Built America. It's on history.com. Let's see, where are they watching it? Anyway, but yeah, look that up, dude. It's a really good show.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
It's really good. It was one of the first shows that kind of had actors in it, but then also had like a documentary thing along with it. I think it was the first series to do that, because like the gang member, like the thing about the mob, making of the mob, that was made by like the same people. But yeah, it's really good, man. Yeah, they're available on history.com apparently, so you can just watch it.
Yeah, I just saw that. It wasn't on Hulu or Netflix.
It might be on Hulu. I don't know. It's hard to. I don't want to hold up the podcast. Look it up.
But you mentioned you went somewhere on vacation.
Oh yeah, Rachel and I we did the same thing. Rachel's good at finding these deals, and she was like, "Hey, you know where we usually go for our cabin to go fishing and stuff? Over the weekend." And like we tried to go over like the summer, but it was like really booked. Like around July 4th weekend, she was like, "They got a deal going on where it's like super cheap, like this 2-bedroom, 2-bath with 4 beds in it, big ass kitchen cabin, dude. Like right off the water, go out there catfish, bring them in, bonfire, the whole shit, dude. Like baller." And it was super cheap. So we went out there, had our like little couples weekend, and I did some video editing. We kind of were out there while we were sick, so like we kind of were able to kind of get like fresh air while we were kind of nursing ourselves back to health. But we had a lot of fun, cooked a lot, and it's an amazing part of. In fact, I want to have a retreat with you and Derek and some of the podcast team and take us out there, because like I said, for really inexpensive, you can get like 4 beds out there, and then bring like air mattresses and stuff like that. It would be baller, dude. But yeah, so we did a similar thing like that. It's situated on a wooden peninsula. The cottages, they offer like 55,000 acres over Lake Hartwell, in every direction. It's that experience when you want to get out there in the great outdoors, you know. So it was really cool. So that's cool. So we were on the same. We also had the same vibe of saving that money.
Well, I mean, it's. I try to do this every year because it is a pretty, you fly to somewhere cold, it's cheap.
Yep.
Yeah, and, I live in LA, so dealing with winter for only, 2-3 days, I'm fine with that. Now, I left 12-degree weather to come back to, it was 77 degrees today. I hate you. That's the big difference.
I hate you. Yeah. It's so cold out here in Atlanta right now, dude.
I heard.
It's crazy. Dude, and like it was fun. What's cool about Atlanta is like out here in Atlanta, like when we get the first snow, everybody's excited. It's like Christmas. Like, oh, it's about to snow. We're so cool. And then like the second snow that kind of gets you away from work, you're like, okay, cool. I get to be away from work. That's awesome. And then about the third or fourth threat of snow, you're like, okay, I did not move to Atlanta to be around this bullshit.
Yeah.
Stop it. Like, no more snow. So like Rachel had this look on her face when I told her like, hey, it might like WSB is like ABC out here. And they sent like, I have the app on my phone. Shout out to James Turner. He's the one who got me to put that on my phone. But like they do the weather updates really well. And I got like a ding today, and it was like, hey, possible blizzard, wintry weather approaching parts of Georgia, weather advisory. And Rachel gave me this look like, take it back. Like as if I am the Tempest and I made it up. She was like fucking pissed. She was like, no, I'm done. I'm over this. So yeah. But yeah, man.
One thing I did want to touch up on though. All right, I'm sorry.
Get it.
No,
get it. Get it, bro.
The release date changes for a few Fox movies, Fox comic related movies. One being Deadpool 2 was pushed up to May 18 from June 1st, which puts it the week before Solo Star Wars story comes out. Now, it was originally coming out 2 weeks after, which I thought would be a much better play,
Yeah.
I don't know how well expectations are for Solo, but it will eat away from Deadpool's second week. Possibly.
Possibly. I don't know. I feel like Deadpool is pretty solid. I mean, combining... First of all, you got to give it up, dude. You got to give it up to for Fox for getting Josh Brolin. I mean, you got to give it up to him, dude. They got Josh Brolin before he appears as Thanos. So they're gonna definitely get the drippings off the penis. Like it's like they're gonna definitely get a little bit of the warm up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The before, the early enjoyment, if you will, of a pleasure session. So I love that. I hope they have some sort of joke about the fact that they beat Marvel to the punch, it literally, in getting the oldest brother from the Goonies. I mean, I always like to remind people, like,
well, no,
Josh Brolin, that motherfucker, dude. It's such a great career, man.
This will come out, I think, 2 weeks after Infinity War.
Oh, is it?
Because Infinity War is going to be the first weekend of May, I think, May 4th.
Oh, okay. Sorry. In my brain, I thought Infinity War was coming out a little bit later in the summer.
No.
Okay. But even so, they still going to get some of the after dripping.
Yeah.
All right. Fuck it. They still getting some of it. Because I mean, they're going to ride off
there's a very good chance that a lot of people won't even realize Josh Brolin is Thanos, but they will know he's Cable.
Oh, they will know. The oldest brother from the Goonies, bro. Like, I always love to remind people of that. Like, amazing career this guy had for the most humblest of beginnings. Like, I love to go back and watch The Goonies, Stand By Me, and The Outsiders. Those are 3 films where, go back and watch those. If you have not seen The Outsiders, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, with all due respect, if you are listening, here's your list. You need to go and watch The Outsiders, Goonies, and Stand By Me. And watch them all the way through. Those are 3 movies notoriously that one or the other, you've watched like half of it but never actually sat down and watched the whole film. I got this theory that no one has actually watched the Goonies. Like, everyone talks about how awesome it is. But like, there's a lot of people, dude, out here who, I used to be one of them. That's how I know, who like lie about seeing the Goonies, and then you say something like, everybody knows, hey, you guys, but like when you, but if you go to like a piano and like, but if you go to like a piano and like fake, like play a wrong note, and then you go, like, people won't know what you mean. It's like, okay, you've not watched the Goonies, you've not actually watched it. But like, I was watching with Rachel the other day, and I was like, that's Josh Brolin right there, that's Thanos, and she's like, oh my god, it is him. Like, it's like, you don't think about that. Like, and you think about, he was, in Men in Black. He actually did a good job in that. I know it was like a random one to pull, but then he was No Country for Old Men, which that
was sort of like his shot to kind of mainstream, yeah.
Yeah, dude, Llewellyn, that's such an awesome character, dude. And to meet the end that he met, it was like, this motherfucker, he knew he was going out, but he fucking gave him a fucking hell of a time doing it, man. Even his wife was...
As good as that movie was, I've never felt the need to watch it the second time. It's sort of like The Revenant. Like, I watched it once, I don't need to see it. I've tried to watch both again. Like, I saw No Country on Old Men on Netflix, and I tried watching it again, and nothing against it. I was just like, man, I really don't... I'm not in the mood right now. You know?
It's kind of depressing. I would, you know, I'll make a I have to confess something. I actually have not seen The Revenant. I've never actually saw The Revenant. So I need to see it, but...
I mean, it's nothing you need to rush out and watch right now. It's another one of those heavy movies. Yeah. Cinematically, it looks fantastic. Like, the director, what he did, you know, a lot of one-shot takes. So it's sort of cool to look at. But, I mean, would this, for all the Leonardo DiCaprio movies, would this be the movie I'd give the Oscar for?
Dude,
probably not, you know. He's had so many better than this.
That he didn't get anything for fucking, what's the name of that damn film? The Aviator, dude. The Aviator.
Yeah, that was good.
The Aviator was the one.
Even Wolf of Wall Street. I love Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street is so good too. Wolf of Wall Street changed. Like, even the style of film, it changed film. And I also really a great nod to Catch Me If You Can.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love Catch Me If You Can. Derek is corrupting the system from afar. I don't know how he did it. But anyway, no, Catch Me If You Can is definitely one of the... I mean, the fact that it's like on every week on HBO. Like, it's always on TV somewhere on some channel. And that's something you should go back. Like that guy is like... The guy who that movie is about is doing like keynote speaking on like TED Talks and shit now. It's like crazy.
I believe it, yeah.
It's like you forget that this was a real thing. This really did happen. Like, it's not something that would happen now. With technology and shit, it's kind of changed the magic of the world. The world's so real now. It's so concrete.
Or they can just verify checks much faster, and we don't even use them. You know, it's...
He's like, no, you're not, kid. You're not that guy. People just used to be dumb. like even down to the fact that, like, back in the day, and I know comedians have talked about this, so I'm not stealing anybody's premise. I'll give credit where credit is due, so don't get upset with me if I use a premise of a joke. But let's be real. Back in the day, like, nowadays, leaving your wife is like difficult to do. Like, cheating on your wife is like difficult to do now. Like, you do some shit, it's like 2.5 seconds, you know you've been dipping your dick somewhere you shouldn't have been. Like, it's so easy to find out. Finding out that you're pregnant is so quick now. Like, it used to be, it took you like 6 months to find out that you were fucking pregnant by some dude. And then by the time you figured out who the guy was, because you probably had sex with 2 or 3 other guys between now and then that guy is like on the other side of the country. And back in the day, if you like grew up in like North Carolina and a guy moved out to California, he might as well have been to fucking Oz. He disappeared off the fucking face of the earth. He was just gone. He was gone. Like, you know, like back in the day, it used to be crazy. If you wanted to like leave your wife, you just got up and said, "Hey, I'm going to go get a packet of cigarettes," and then you were just fucking gone. Scot-free.
I will write you 2 months later, dearest Catherine.
You were just fucking gone.
You have a whole nother family out there, you know.
Bro. A whole nother family, whole nother life, dude. And then, like, maybe in the 70s you had one of your kids show up and realize you had another family, and then they just left you alone. There was no go on Facebook and write about your experiences, and then, like, a news station goes and does an expose on this dad who has 2 lives. Like, nobody gave a shit. You were like, "Hey, my dad like left my mom and started another family." Like, nowadays, you talk about some shit like, are you fucking kidding me? How the fuck did he do that? But, like, back in the day, it was like, hey, that's what motherfuckers do. Papa was a Rolling Stone. I mean, you know the song. It's crazy, dude. I love this episode. Like, we start off talking about something new, and then we go back to how things used to be back in the day. I think the name of this episode should be "Back in the Day," which was a Tuesday. And like, we like, what the fuck is that episode about? They usually talk about movies and shit. No, we're just fucking talking about how it was back in the day, dude. You used to have to ride through town and fucking yell, "Hey, the British are coming," for people to take you seriously.
Go fuck yourself, Paul.
Fuck, tell your mama.
Oh my god, I'm so glad I live when I live now. I can't imagine writing letters, like, and you get them every 4 to 6 months. You know, your kid can die of consumption.
dude, like. Imagine like data, how like back in the like nowadays, like let's go back to this. Like, the reason why Watergate was such a big deal back when it was is because if you burned a fucking letter, it was just gone. There was no trace of it. It was as if it never fucking happened. You redacted something. You want to talk about redacting images? There was no like finding out what it used to fucking say. It was just fucking black. Mm-hmm. There used to be some shit there. There may have been something good. There may have not been something good. It was just fucking gone, dude. Like, now you can go in somewhere and like lie to your teacher about like you made like you can like think about. All right, let's be real. How many times did you like fucking copy and paste some shit that you read somewhere else or you used from another term paper before Turnitin.com came out? Mm-hmm. And you just, I mean, I remember lying to a teacher when I was in high school. That literally, she was a fucking messy teacher, dude. And I think I might have told this story on a previous podcast, but I'm going to go on with it because I'm old now and they can't do shit about me now. But I once lied to this teacher. She was really messy and she had all of these like papers, like these term papers. This is high school. This is back when you used to write term papers. So she had all these big papers on her desk. And this is an AP English class, by the way. Okay, So I'm giving away. Some of the people who listen may know exactly what teacher I'm talking about. Shout out to you if you know her around. I appreciate the A that you gave me. But anyway, what ends up happening is I didn't write the fucking paper. I just didn't do it. I just didn't feel like it. Like, and when you're around a bunch of AP students, you might relate to this. Like, the idea of not doing a term paper, it's like it doesn't happen. Kids didn't cheat in AP classes. They didn't try to fuck with the system in AP. You're around other motherfuckers that really wanted to be fucking the president or be at NASA someday. It was crazy. Like, and when I say that, one of my friends, shout out to you, I'm not going to mention your name on a podcast where I'm cussing, but he actually has worked. He's an aerospace engineer to this day. Okay, so this is a guy who I was in class with. So these are the people I went to classes with, and I'm up here podcasting. So that shows you where the fuck I went with my life. But anyway, what ends up happening?
Shouldn't have copied that paper.
Exactly. No. Here's what happened. It's even better than that. Here's what happens. So she asked me one day. I don't come up with this plan in advance. I'm not that smart. I just decide I'm not turning the paper in, and I expect it's just gonna blow over, because that's what the fucking happens when you're in the dumb classes. You don't turn in some shit. Teacher doesn't care. They give you the fucking F and move on. No, in AP they care because every kid makes A classes. Because standardized testing, every kid in these classes, they make A's, and that's how we get money. So, like, they want to make sure I'm turning this goddamn term paper, right? So, it's like and back then, 20-page term paper was like a big deal, right? So I just don't do it. And I come to class every day, act like everything's good, giving the answers, making A's on my spelling tests and shit. And finally, the teacher's like a couple weeks out to the end of the term, and she's like, hey, that paper, you never turned that paper in. And, like, on the fly, just look over at her desk, and she's got all of these folders, because you didn't email back then. You put it in this nice folder with brads, if you know what brads are. Hole punch, put these little brass brads in there with a nice cover and everything, and then you give it to the teacher, and she puts it on a desk until she decides to grade it. Honor system, because nobody's going to actually take a paper out, change a person's name on it, and then make it theirs. No one does that back then. No one thinks that way. It's all the honor system. So I noticed that, like, one day, all of the papers fell in the fucking trash can because she's just not organized. So, like, literally, I'm looking over her shoulder, and there's papers all around this bin, this recycle bin. And the recycle bin is empty. And so, immediately, I go, well, I put it right on, it was on top of that wait a minute, the bin is empty. And I just start crying on cue right there. And I'm like, there was no go print out a new copy because you wrote it. It was gone. It was like 20 pages written double space. Like, you're like, fuck, dude. Like, what the fuck I'm going to do? Dude, I cried. She gave me a fucking A on a 20-page term paper, dude. I did that shit, bro. I did that shit. So it's just crazy how, like, when you think back, shit like that doesn't happen now. The world is not nearly as magical anymore. Like,
No.
And I kind of feel it's kind of sad now, you know.
I feel like it might be worse off for this generation of children, because it's probably you turn in your homework electronically, kind of like you had to do. What I imagine you had to do in university classes, like you have a time you have to send it electronically by. You know,
Yeah.
That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Speaking
And that
of which,
probably has translated into high school, I'm sure.
oh, trust me, that's when I quit college.
Yeah.
I quit, like, literally, like when you and I remember, I went back to school. I remember one day I was like, yeah, I'm going back to school, dude. He's like, oh, really? I'm gonna do it online while I'm working with Trial Graphics, dude. They hit me with the turn in your paper by 7:30 p.m. EST type shit. I was like, fuck this. I can't cheat this system. I can't work here. I can't fucking do this. And I'm paying. Hey, you pay for it. Like, fuck that. But it's kind of crazy. But on the other side of that, what is magical about today is, like, when you have you ever heard about drop shipping?
About what?
Drop shipping.
Drop shipping? No.
Dude, it's kind of crazy. Like, so while you don't have the old magic of what we talked about in that aspect, you have other things, like there are ways to make money, like with Bitcoin, and then with drop shipping, where you can just open up like a shop online with like Shopify, and you can send stuff like from like China and mark it up. It's the craziest thing ever, and people have made millions of dollars doing this. It's crazy. You just go on YouTube, dude, and just take like 30 minutes and just type in drop shipping. Be amazed. And like, it's obviously not that easy, but like they make it sound like you're just printing money. It's like, what? Why isn't everybody doing this? But obviously there's a reason why to everything. But there's all kinds of stuff that happens nowadays that makes life awesome, like air conditioning. I couldn't imagine like living in a time. Like, imagining me, like, back in the day, if it was fucking hot, it was just fucking hot. Like, you just opened up a window and hoped some goddamn, like, wind came through your fucking house. Like, now...
I honestly wonder how places like Phoenix got colonized, how they got settled. Why did you stop right here? And what... If we were to try to venture off and kind of wonder what maybe the fifth circle of hell was like, I would imagine it be the fucking desert. I always imagined it to be, you know, when people really started going out west, like the guys that couldn't really make it, that's just, they're going through weeks and weeks of desert, and they're like, fuck it, I've lost 3 kids on this trip. I'm just going to drop, you know, I'll set my roots down right here. I don't care. These people are talking about coast. I'm not finding the coast, damn it, you know?
Fuck it. Let's just, there's a bunch of 2x4s around here. Let's build a spaghetti town.
Yeah.
Have some high noon shit. Build a clock right there. We'll have gunfights. Yeah. It'll be cool. People will love it. They'll make movies about it. But anyway. All right, I feel like we've exhausted like all of the funny things about history for this episode. Nate, it is amazing to have this podcast with you because I forget that like we're recording. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, thank you for coming along with us. Hopefully you're having fun listening to this, and hopefully you enjoyed us killing it. And if you didn't, then so what? Because
go fuck yourself.
Exactly. We enjoyed it, and hopefully we helped you curate a little bit of media and get a little humor.
The Player Way.
So if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I move to close it out. Derek, he's not here. Nate, what do you think?
Aye.
All right, bro.
You have my axe. Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, thank you so much. Part of why I was kind of amped and excited is I was going off of a pepper high. So after you get off of listening to this podcast, go onto our YouTube channel, youtube.com/playyourwaypodcast. Go on over there and take a look at some of our hot, spicy pepper challenge videos. I got like 4 or 5 of them going, and I'm gonna keep them going. People seem to like them. People are starting to send me emails and text me, hey, if you think you're a badass, try this spice. All right, fuck it, dude, let's do it. You know, so it's interesting. It's like I'm at close to 35 and found out my hidden talent was eating hot shit. So,
and that's another
gonna
testament.
keep
Play
doing it
to the
until
last second, you know.
hey, dude. Hey, listen. Hey, if the Vikings can do it, hey, so can I, dude. I'm gonna ride this motherfucker if I can. I'm gonna keep doing it until I end up like Homer Simpson, where I'm like wandering out into the wilderness of the desert. Which that's really how they ended up out there is peyote, but that's another episode. So, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, I've been your resident podcast DJ BK, helping you curate your life and media
The Player Way.
along with my always cool as a cucumber co-captain, Nate.
That's me. And again, I wish I had another. I need to think of like an intro and an outro, but
Hey, you need to holler at Jonathan Barron. He had the same problem over there with Weekly Games Chat. He ended up with Thug Life as his, but I think you do have a bit of a, tagline type of thing. So send us on home with it.
peace out, Rabbit.
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week. And no matter what path you decide to take or actions you decide to follow, just make sure you do what next.
The Player Way.
Wrap that up just like that.
Thanks for listening to the Player Way podcast. Recorded in a single take from Los Angeles, California, Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, by Nathan Peterson, Derek Lewis, and BK Jackson.
And I'm Darren Marlar, the majestic voice of the Player Way podcast.
Our opening theme is titled Bound by Ricky Remedy, courtesy of Elysian Records. And our closing theme is titled Coconut King Diaries by Xander, spelled Zahnder. You can find this music by both Ricky Remedy and Xander, and many more tracks on SoundCloud. And remember, no matter what choices you make or paths you follow, just make sure you do it
The Player Way.
See you next week.